Good to be here. I don't feel nearly as awkward as I did this morning. You know what it's like when you meet people for the first time? No one knows what that's like. Really? I sort of feel like Napoleon Dynamite on a good day, you know? Hi. Don't look at me in the eyes, I'm afraid. Well, the late French philosopher and mathematician Blaise Pascal, in his Pensées, wrote that there are three kinds of people in the world. The first kind, he says, are those who have sought the truth about God and have found it. These, he says, are wise and happy. The second group are those who are seeking the truth of God but have not yet found Him. These, he says, are wise but unhappy. Wise because they knew to seek, but unhappy because they had not yet found. And the third group, he says, are those who neither seek nor find. Now, of this certain class of people, he says, I have no words to describe such pitiful a creature. But listen to what he does. Pascal reasons as if he is the third kind of man. He thinks to himself, what must the third kind of man say to himself? This is what he writes. I know not who put me into the world, nor what the world is, nor what I myself am. I am in terrible ignorance of everything. I know not what my body is, nor my senses, nor my soul, not even that part of me which thinks what I say, which reflects on all and on itself, and knows itself no more than the rest. I see those frightful spaces of the universe which surround me, and I find myself tied to one corner of this vast expanse, without knowing why I am put in this place rather than in another, nor why the short time which is given me to live is assigned to me at this point rather than at another time of the whole eternity which has gone before me and which shall come after me. I see nothing but infinities on all sides which surround me as an atom, and as a shadow which endures only for an instant and returns no more. All I know is that I must soon die. But what I know least is this very death which I cannot escape. Just as I don't know where I came from, so I don't know where I'm going. I only know that in leaving this world, I will fall forever either into annihilation, nothingness, or into the hands of God. Without knowing to which these two states I shall be forever assigned, such is my state, full of weakness and uncertainty. And from all of this, I conclude that I ought to spend all the days of my life without caring to inquire into what must happen to me. Perhaps I might find some solution to my doubts, but I will not take the trouble, nor take a step to seek it. And after treating with scorn those who are concerned with this care, I will go without foresight and without fear to try the great event, and let myself be led carelessly to death, uncertain of the eternity of my future state. So in today's talk, what I'd like to do is explain how I went from being in the third group, as one who didn't seek and didn't find, to the second group, to one who began to seek but had not yet found, to the first group, the one who has sought and has found. I was raised in a semi-Catholic family. My mum was Catholic and my dad was not. My mum would drag my brother and my sister and I to Mass each Sunday while my dad would stay home and watch the football. Now, I didn't like football, but it seemed a whole lot more exciting than what I was being forced to do, you know. It amuses me why my mum couldn't understand why I didn't like it, you know. Okay, sit down in the hard chair, shut up, don't touch your sister. Right. Great, you know. I remember being over at friends' houses. We'd have sleepovers, and in the morning, we'd all be in our sleeping bags, watching Scooby-Doo and eating Fruit Loops. And my mum would come in, knock on the door. Come on, Matt, we're going to Mass. I have to get up and leave my non-Catholic posse and go with my mum, you know. Now, the priests were great. They were fine. The congregation were lovely. There was nothing I had to say about them that would be negative. And yet, as I began to grow older, I had these deep questions about life and God and love and all that, which people in my church didn't seem to care much about. For example, I remember laying in my bed one night and thinking, sorry, you're going to see me as really weird soon. I'm just going to tell you anyway. If you judge me, you go to confession. That's not my problem. I was laying in bed and I thought to myself, what if I got into a rocket ship with unlimited fuel and just went up? Like, does it end? Like, do I hit a wall? Does space come to an end? And if it does, I guess that means you come to a place where you can't put your arm out. So what is that? Is it a wall? But what's behind the wall? You know, I'm like 12 years old, freaking out, you know. I hope some of you have had similar experiences. I would go to parties, you know, and after the second beer, when everyone became a philosopher, we'd go out on the road. I lived in a country town, so there was, you know, I wasn't worried about getting killed by the trucks or anything. So we would lay on the ground, just look up at the sky. We called them GLUE conversations. GLUE was an acronym. God, life, the universe, and everything. It's like, how did that happen? Who am I, you know? I remember sitting across from my friend and looking at her and saying this to her. Okay, how come I'm not in your body looking at me and you're not in my body looking at you? I even went through a stage, now this is the bit where you're going to be like, okay, he's lost the plot, but I don't mind, where I honestly feared that I might be the only person that exists. I didn't know that this was a belief called solipsism. It's the belief that you alone exist and the external world is a fantasy. I remember shutting my door and going, how do I know that yeah, but it would come back, wouldn't it? I remember sitting with my friend Gareth in the library, and I started sharing this stuff with him. What would you do? You know, you freak out. I was like, oh dear mercy. I was like, how do I know you're real? He's like, what do you mean? How do you know? Of course you know I'm real. You've known me for a while. We see each other every day at school. I'm like, yeah, but when I shut my eyes, how do I know that you're there? There's no way to prove that. And he said, I think he felt sorry for me at this point. He said, Matt, I'm real. And I said, but that's what you would say if you... But I had all of these questions about life and about God, and when I would ask the questions, I would often get little trite answers, you know? Like, Mum, why the heck are people being raped and killed and God exists? Oh, Matthew, you just got to have faith. What the hell does that mean? You don't even know what that means. You're just saying that. Had all of these questions that no one seemed to have a good answer for. Now, I may not have listened if they did, but they didn't seem to. So I got to the point where I thought God probably doesn't exist. Perhaps it's a story that parents invented to make their children behave, right? Sort of like a metaphysical Santa Claus who's going to find out who's naughty and nice and give you a lump of coal accordingly. Maybe it's just not true. Well, I remember one day I was 13 years old. 13? No, yeah, about 13. It doesn't matter. You don't care. It's not going to make a whole lot of difference. One of my good friends, her name was, check this out, how's this for Italian? Carla Bellafemini. Carla. I don't have that muscle in the tongue, Carla, that you guys have. I'm talking to myself up here, bloody hell. She comes over, now check this out, I'm not making this up. Her grandparents on either side, both of her grandfathers, Mario and Luigi. Bam! Not joking. I've been where you are and looked up at speakers thinking, how do you have such interesting stories? They can't be true. Well, that is true. Well, she would come around to my house and we'd go rollerblading together, right? Just imagine me, my little white legs. Don't laugh at that. Rollerblading. We'd go up and down this road, you know. And we would stop and we would talk from time to time. And I remember this one time we sat down. I liked Carla, man. The reason I love Carla so much and still love her to this day is she's just a deep woman, man. She likes to think things through. So I really enjoyed her. So we sat down on the curb. Do you say curb? Good. One day, and she started sharing with me how pointless life seemed. Now, she's 13 years old. And she's, in a sense, asking me for a reason why she should not commit suicide. I'm a 13-year-old boy. There is no way I'm going to be able to handle this. I'm like, I can do this with I don't. Trying to relate, bring it together. I'm so sorry. And I remember I tried as best as I could. I'm like, Carla, you're lovely. Crap, do better. You know, like... well, I mean, we're going to go to high school next year, which is going to be awesome, you know? She's like, okay, sure, then what? I don't know. Well, I mean, then we get, we'll get our driving license. We'll drive up and down the main road. That's what people do in country towns. They drive up and down the main road. That's all they do. Looking for action. Tell me if it's the same in America. In Australia, oh, yeah. In Australia, all the guys with their heated up cars, how do you say hotted up, heated, I don't know, in their cars, and they always accelerate a little bit when a cute girl looks at them. As if the girl's going, oh my gosh, he just accelerated. There's an Australian comedian who ponders, what were these boys like at school? Hey Jenny, watch this. As if Jenny's going to be like, oh, gee, Johnny just ran fast over there. You know, I was back here when I lost my train of thought. Carla, yes, you'll get your license. It'll be fantastic. She's like, then what? I'm like, I don't know. You'll finish high school. We'll go to university maybe. You'll meet a man. You'll marry. You'll have kids. You can call him Mario and Luigi if you want. I don't care, you know. It's like, but then what? I'm like, then they're... what do you want from me? I mean, they're going to have kids and then, we'll die. And she looked at me as if to say, exactly. And it hit me. What's the point? If that's all that faces me is just death and annihilation, why not end it now? What's the big difference? And I did not have a good answer for my friend that day. And I remember going home and feeling really worried about that and not realizing that if I was to embrace atheism, there were certain other truths which I would also have to embrace. Let me show you what I mean. It seems to me that there are 5 fundamental questions which we all ask ourselves. They're up on the screen. And they have to do with, I can't see them, origin, identity, meaning, morality, and destiny, right? So we want to know, well, where did I come from? Who am I? What's the meaning of life? How should I live? Where am I going? Now, if I want to be an atheist, which I wasn't really sure if I did or not, then I need to be honest in my answers. Where did we come from? Well, you've probably learned from Dr. Bitzer, as I have, that, well, the universe of which you are a part was coughed into existence about 13.7 billion years ago, give or take 100 million years either way. So it all just kind of blew into being, coughed into existence, right? It's just a random, blind, cosmic process which doesn't have you in mind. That's where you came from. All right, good. Who am I? Well, Dr. William Lane Craig has said, you are the result of matter plus time plus chance. That's who you are. That's all you are. You might say, well, what's the meaning of my life? Well, look, come on, let's be real now. The universe doesn't have any purpose, so it follows logically and inescapably that neither do you. Now, you can pretend that you have purpose. That's kind of cute. Sort of like a child who thinks he's doing something meaningful when he dresses up as a policeman. He's not really doing anything meaningful. It's like a self-delusion. So perhaps you think, well, the purpose of my life is, just to love my family. But they will end up in the same abyss that you will. Who cares? What does it matter? You might think, well, I'm going to try and find a cure for cancer. Okay, terrific. We all die. What does it matter eventually? I mean, if I'm nothing and you're nothing, what's the point of anything? And it would seem obvious that, no, there's no meaning to life. Now, what was interesting is as I went into my teenage years, I tried to find meaning in telling people that there was no meaning. Sort of like cutting off the branch I was sitting on, you know? How should I live? Well, however you please. I mean, there's certain acts which I suppose have become taboo. And if you want to live in a society that sees that most of those within it are flourishing, then you shouldn't do certain things. But why? I mean, think about this. When a lion eats her cub, we don't say she committed infanticide. She just ate her cub. When a shark forcibly copulates with a female, we don't say, well, he raped her. No, they're not moral beings. They're just animals. And whatever is in nature is fine. So however you live is fine. There is no ontological basis for objective morality. So you cannot condemn immoral acts in the Bible, as some want to do, if you want to say there's no God, because you have no basis to affirm objective morality. And this is where I was at. Where am I going? Well, as Father Spitzer will tell you, cosmologists tell us that we are all doomed to perish, both individually and collectively, in the inevitable heat death of the universe. Now, you thought this was supposed to be a motivational speech. That's Matthew Kelly. I'm the demotivational guy, all right? But this is what we find ourselves in. Now, that doesn't mean that atheism's not true, but it just means that looking atheism in the face without blinking seems almost impossible for anyone who likes to claim the title. I stopped going to Mass whenever I could. And one day I remember my mum comes home from Mass. I was about 17 now. I was in my final year of high school. And dude, seriously, man, I'm not trying to be dramatic about how sincere and crazy my conversion was, but I really did. Like, I'd dress in black and I would graffiti Satan 666 around my school. That actually happened. It's like, oh wow, really classy. Not because I believed any of it, you know, but just because I was looking for meaning. I was talking with the ladies earlier. It's like, would you just notice me, somebody? Would you see me? Would you notice me? That's what Carla was doing, and that's what I was doing. And we sort of fit in with the group where we can get a bit of a platform where we can kind of be recognized. So I fit in. I was like, we loved heavy metal. I still do like heavy metal, actually, but it's really funny. Who's a Metallica fan? All right, it's okay. They're like 50 years old now. You're not supposed to know them. It's all right. Well, James Hetfield has this awesome guitar called the Explorer. And as a 16-year-old boy, I got that guitar and thought I looked as good as him up on stage when I really didn't. Yeah, terrible. So, Mum comes home. There's this thing called World Youth Day in Rome. Would you like to go? I heard blah, 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 free trip to Rome. Would you like to go? Is that a trick question? Yes, I want to go. This is what she said. Well, I'm not paying all this money, this is her accent, for you to go make a bloody idiot of yourself. You can do that here. I said, well, thank you for your high expectations of your son, Mum. That's true. I don't plan on doing that, you know. So I started planning for Rome. I remember sitting, the day before I left, I remember sitting with my best friend, I think it was English class, and I looked at him and I said, I'm not going for Jesus or any of that junk. I'm just going for the ladies and to have a good time, to see another country. No one ever said to me, who is Jesus? I was never able to give a good answer to that. I often would say things like, well, maybe he was just a good guy, good teacher, you know, but he wasn't God. But you know, as I know, that there are very limited outcomes if you don't want to say that Jesus Christ is the Lord. It seems to me you only have three other options. Well, Matt, is he a legend? Maybe he was just embellished. Maybe he didn't even exist. Maybe they just wrote about him. Or maybe if he did exist, such myth has grown up around him that we really can't know anything. Well, the problem with this is the New Testament documents were written within the first generation after the death of Christ, while the eyewitnesses were still alive. So the life of Christ, we have better grounds for that than almost any ancient figure of antiquity. So for example, Alexander the Great. The earliest biographies we have of Alexander the Great are from Arrian and Plutarch around 400 years after his death, right? And yet Greco-Roman historians recognize that these are basically reliable and they certainly don't doubt his existence. Furthermore, the New Testament documents are better attested to than any work of antiquity. We have about 500 New Testament manuscripts that date from 500 AD 500 and down. That's incredible. The next best we have to that is Homer's epic poem, the Iliad, and after 500 years of its origin, within that time we only have 50 copies. So no, these are reliable. And you think about what you're saying. I mean, every one of the apostles went to a grueling death except John the Apostle, who died on an island alone, but boiled in oil, skin teared from their flesh, crucified, beheaded, stoned. How many people do you think who claim to see Elvis sightings would be willing to be beheaded for that belief? It wasn't like they all got together and, okay, so we're just going to say he rose from the dead. I know he didn't, but we'll just say he did. But listen now, shh. Okay, when they come after us, and they will, nobody says anything. It'll be brilliant. All right, no, he's not a legend. I wrote more about this on the Focus blog, which you can look into, but let's look at the other ones. What about liar or a lunatic? You see, in Matthew 28:17, we see the apostles worshiping Jesus. It says they fell down and worshipped him. Now, if Jesus was not God and allowed them or encouraged them to worship him as God, he was a liar, which means he was a bad man. The problem is when you read the life of Christ, you don't get that impression at all. What about lunatic? It's the same problem. I mean, try and read the fifth chapter of Matthew's gospel and say to yourself, this guy was a lunatic. It's not possible. And this is why I love what Lewis has to say in Mere Christianity. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman, or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, you can spit at him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about his being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us, and he did not intend to.